What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives at the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we are taking a look at a new knife brand for me. This is Kunwu Knives, and I've known about Kunwu Knives for a while, but a lot of the models that they had been putting out were they look good, they look, but they didn't look like anything kind of very different from what I had in my collection. So I never pulled the trigger. But then I saw this one, and this one is the Kunwu Padre. Padre as in father in Spanish. So this is the Kunwu Padre. And when I saw this one, it immediately caught my attention because the blade looks very similar to one of my favorite blades, and I'll show you that here in a second. So let me give you a tour of the knife. So there's different versions of this knife. This is the full stone wash. There's one with satin, and this is more of a kind of satinated finish. So you have kind of Damascus pivot collar for an accent. You have, let me show you the blade here. So the blade is just a little over 3 1/4, just a little. You've got kind of like this sheep's foot reverse tanto thing going on. You've got a mill pocket clip that looks really nice. I really like this pocket clip. It's a titanium frame lock. You've got a lock bar insert. You've got a titanium back spacer, and it's actually very extensively milled. And I mentioned this because it kind of caught me off guard. I see a knife like this and I expect it to be a certain weight, and this was actually a lot lighter than what you think. It caught me a little bit by surprise. There's just a lot of milling inside of this thing. So means of deployment, you can do kind of a front flipper here, but the primary thing is it's a spider flick. So that's kind of what you've got here. So let me give you some size comparison. Here it is against a pair of 2, and here it is against a pair of 3. So very much a full-size knife in the neighborhood of a pair of 3, and with a lot of similarities. With the forward choil into the blade, the sharpened blade length is not too dissimilar for kind of similar sized knives. This one's a little bit, just a tad bit longer. The Padre's a little bit longer, but they carry very similarly. I'll show you here in profile. So this one doesn't fall down to the most compact version of a knife. So this one doesn't disappear in your pocket for sure. It's fairly tall when it's closed. So I'll show you here against the bug outs, although those are probably not great size comparisons. I think the pair 2 is a very good size comparison for this. So this is what you've got. So like I said, it's much thicker than the bug out, much longer, much taller, and basically bigger in every dimension. So if you want to kind of know what it's going to look and feel like, the pair 2 is probably your best bet. Even in ergonomics is probably. But as I mentioned before, the reason that I got this knife is because of the blade shape, and it's very similar. And you have to be careful when you say very similar, because it feels like you're saying that they copied. I don't think these two knives are the same by any stretch of the imagination, but it reminded me of the CKF Evo, and hopefully you can see why. You got the same sheep's foot blade, the same kind of reverse tanto swedge up top with a hole and jimping along the back, as well as the forward choil. There's a lot of similarities. Most of the differences come here in the back, and so these two are drastically different knives. Okay, the fit and finish of the custom knife factory is much better. The action is much better. But this is a $600-700 knife, and the Padre is a $300 knife. So I think if you ever like kind of the shape or the look of the Evo, I think the Padre is probably the closest thing out there on the market that will kind of get you to scratch that itch, especially because you can still get this one, but you can't get this one. So So the reason this drew my attention is the blade shape, the blade shape for sure. So let me get started with a review, and we can see what happens. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is ergonomics, and the ergonomics on this one are very, very good. With the stonewash, it feels very secure in the hand. The ergonomics are very, very good. In the forward choil, I got plenty of space back here in the handle, and if I choke back, I still have plenty of space, and my thumb lands exactly where it has to. It's not as comfortable, or the jimping is not correct. It's not place where I could use it when I'm forward in the forward choil. You would almost have to have jimping up here, you know, when I'm choked up. But when I'm choked back, the saber grip is very, very good. Oh, it's M390 steel in clay. Oh no, it's Vanax steel. You can see right there, it's Vanax steel. And Vanax, it's a steel that I like a lot, because you can just not worry about it. The rust is not a problem for Vanax, so that's something that's very, very nice. But I was talking about ergonomics. So the ergonomics, you know, and I'm gonna keep comparing it to the Evo. So I like the ergonomics, portions of the ergonomics of the Padre better and portions of the Evo better. The contouring is more comfortable on the Evo, and this thicker handle portion is more comfortable on the Evo. But the Evo tapers down to very narrow here, and in my large hand, I end up kind of going all the way across around the knife. And that's something that's a little bit better on the Padre. The Padre, it's a little bit taller in this area. But I think that the ergos on the Evo are still better, but the ones on the Padre are not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're actually pretty darn good. The action is really, really nice on the Padre. It's snappy, it's crisp. You know, the detent is perfect. You can't fail it. It feels it's fidgety. It's really, really nice. It locks up really, really good, and it's snappy, and it's authoritative, and it's everything that you want it to be. The only thing that it's not, and maybe it's because I've only had it for a couple of weeks, it's a little bit gritty. You know, it doesn't feel smooth. You know, the glassy smooth, the hydraulic that you get from some knife is not present here. Here it feels a little bit gritty. It feels like the bearings are running on sandpaper, and it might be you know, a result of the stone washing, maybe. So the action is very, very good. It's just not very. It feels like it's raspy. Is probably the best description that I can give you. Even though the look, it's really, really nice. You know, it's a controlled drop shot that I really, really like. It's actually my preferred kind of closing action, and deploying it is just really, really nice. Excellent action. Really, really well done. Fit and finish. I think fit and finish is excellent. You know, this is a $300 knife, so it's not a budget knife by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also not a $600 or $700 knife. And at that price point, what you're getting here of Vanax and the milled titanium, the Damascus pocket clip, the Damascus pivot collar, I'm sorry, you know, the pivot is milled. There's a lot of really good things. The design is excellent. The action is really good. So the fit and finish on this is really, really nice. I think I probably should have gotten the satin one. I didn't realize that there was a satin version until I already pulled the trigger on the stonewash version. Sometimes one gets carried away. But the fit and finish is kind of surprising for a knife that hasn't been for a knife brand that hasn't been around all that long. It's actually very, very good. You know, you probably call it 90% of Riyadh quality is what I'm gonna call it. You know, right around there. Not quite, you know, at where Riyadh is at, but you know, it's actually pretty good. The milling's actually really, really good. the centering, a lot of things that I've seen are really nice. Cutting with this is actually very good. So let me show you something. So versus the Evo, so this is the Evo 3.0, and versus the Evo 3.0, you can see it's got a much thinner blade, much thinner blade. And what you get is not only, and let me show you against the Parrot 2 here. So it's even a little bit thinner than the Parrot 2. Hopefully that comes across here. But because it's thinner than Parrot 2 and it's also really tall, you know, and it's got a hollow grind, it's not as evident on the stonewash, but it's a really subtle hollow grind. This is a laser beam to cut. It's one of the sliciest knives that I've ever had. Much slicier than this. You've got to be thinking more along the lines of how slicey a bug out is. It cuts extremely well. I wouldn't go cutting any kind of like zip ties or anything, you know, really hard. I think it comes to such a thin edge here that I kind of worry about, especially, for example, this is, I had the same problem with the Evo 2.0. The Evo 2.0 has a thinner blade stock than the 3.0, and the hollow just becomes really thin to where I kind of worry about it. So if you're going to be doing food prep, no bones. If you're doing cardboard, if you're doing kind of leather on a board, if you're doing those kinds of things, then this is excellent. Rope cutting, absolutely. But like I said, like zip ties or those kinds of things, probably not. It's just a very slicey knife. I wouldn't say that it's a hard use knife. No, you know, that's not what I would use it for. Airing of grievances, I don't have any. I really don't have any. I think this is a very solid knife. It's I think that there's a lot of value here. I think if you've seen the Evo, and you've kind of said, well, man, I can't spend, you know, $700 or $650 on the Evo. Well, you know, I think this is probably 70% or 80% of the Evo. I think there's a lot of really good things on the Padre. So, guys, like I said, I have no airing of grievances. I think the design is well done. It's well executed. The ergonomics are very good. The action is very good, and I fully recommend it. Especially if you've seen the Evo and you kind of like it, then I think this is probably, it's the equivalent to getting the zero tolerance 0562 instead of getting the XM18. Okay, it's a very similar thing. Okay, you get a lot of it, not quite all of it, but a lot of it. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. If you did, if I earned it, then like and subscribe, and until I see you at the next one, take care.